Hello, New York City Charter Schools. This is a quick webinar with Tracy Davey regarding the student daily attendance reporting for the 22-23 school year. If you have not started yet, we recommend that you do so today. There's a lot of data to be reported all the way back from the first day of school. And we want to make sure that you have enough time to not only report the data, but to verify it in L2RPT to ensure that the state has it for all your accountability calculations and whatnot, and also that it's correct. Again, there could be a possibility that you need to add data or make corrections. So the state education department on their annual timeline has two target deadlines that don't particularly apply to charter schools. It does say it here because the state will calculate gross scores for principals. But since charter schools are not subject to the annual professional performance review calculations that a regular public school and BOCES are accountable for, they don't really need the attendance by these dates, but we recommend it. Since the state is going to be pulling and looking at data, I very much suspect that your charter leader would be getting an email reminding them of these deadlines and how the work should be done. I doubt the state will disaggregate that. It's going to be one email to the whole state, and they're not going to say, hey, you're a charter school, you're exempt. They're going to say, we need this data. We know when that data is due, and we definitely recommend that you have all of your data completed in level 0 from the very first day of school through the end of May by June 16th. If you have through April done, or even just through March at least, by early June, is going to make the end of the year time period easier. There's a lot of data that has to be reported at the end of the year. The state needs to know every student passed in their classes and student class grade detail. You have to then report some staff attendance. I don't want you to leave this till the end. So we recommend that you report this data by June 16th, that Friday. We're off that Monday. Tuesday is when we move data next, and then your data would refresh in L2RPT on the 26th. So that weekend, the 17th, 18th, and 19th, we're not going to be in the office, and level 0 will certainly be open the whole time, but we're not going to be around to support you. So we are showing you work days when we will be here to support you. So you will have to report attendance through the last day of school in June. And we want, again, most of your data early so that you're reviewing data and just adding 1 month and not all of the data. We are recommending that you get that in by July 7th. Remember, that's the 4th of July weekend. So we also want to alleviate the possibility of stress there in case you are off or if your school is completely even closed. We will continue to collect data that following week, and that will be the final transfer. Whatever data we have on that Friday, we're going to come into work the next week, prep it and send it to the city, and then that's it, we're done. So let's take a look at the data transfer schedule. I want to make sure that you understand that. And just imagine that this is like the first week of October. New student enrollments in ATS start, let's call it week 1. This would be the first week of data that we would probably get at ES-BOCES. So through that time period till midnight on the following Wednesday, you're working away in ATS, and actually any prior data that's in ATS would all be there, but new enrollments, things would be refreshed, from active data through that Wednesday. On Wednesday night, the city will run reports and collect all that data, pull it out of ATS for submission to state ed. They do that over the next 2 business days, and then they post the data to state ed on Friday, and they also give us a copy of enrollments, your student demographics, so that we have an ID and name for all of your students in level 0, and certain program fact records. So now on Thursday, while they're prepping that data, week 2 starts, right? And you might have new enrollments, and ATS is collecting new data, and then the same process happens again. Of course, during that time, level 0 and state ed's L2RPT environment We'll refresh that weekend, and that whole week we have data from all those days ago, right? Back numerous days. New students enrolling on a Thursday or a Friday, we're not even going to have that data until the next data refresh. We move student daily attendance every Tuesday. We move all other templates on Wednesday. Years ago, we did all the data at once, but after COVID, when the state started to require a record for every student on every day, these files became too big for us to be able to move both of them on the same day. So attendance data does move every Tuesday morning. The rest of your templates move on Wednesday. Of course, the city then is starting what would be the next week of ATS enrollments. They're prepping all that ATS data from that Wednesday night at midnight in the files that we sent them. They post them to state ed. They'll give us new enrollment data. While they continue to collect new enrollments, we are just refreshing level 0, the state's refreshing level 2 with, data from a couple of weeks ago, and so on and so on. Just a reminder again, attendance data moves every Tuesday and all other data moves on Wednesdays. So one of the ways that the state's going to use your information is for public reporting. And the data they're reporting is what's important for your accountability ratings. You can view this at any time at data.niced.gov. Of course, as the school year ends, the first pieces that are published would be 3 through 8 results and graduation scores. That will come out in the fall following, immediately following the end of a school year. Additional data that populates all the report card comes out in waves as the state has time to verify it, work on their calculations and whatnot. So as I show you information here, you're going to see that it's for some prior years. There are 3 sections on the school report card. We are going to focus on the school data area. That's where your attendance information will be reported. First in the school report card, and for elementary middle, there are just different reports here that you can queue up to download. Oh, I just realized that doesn't quite align to chronic absenteeism. Oh, you can choose any one section or all of them to build a report card to review data. At the top of the screen is awesome information. I recommend reading it because it gives you assurances about exactly what you're looking at. And they also have links to the glossary and guide, and I'm going to show you this shortly, and to make sure we understand what the data is that we're seeing. And then also the entire database. This thing is huge. It's all 1,000 schools across the state. And when you think about a school like New York City that has hundreds of schools, and each charter school is a school itself, there's a lot of data behind this. I don't recommend downloading that unless you really know what you're doing, and make sure you have a lot of memory free on your computer. Almost every time I'm showing you a school report card, I'm going to be at the state level. We are looking at over 1.5 million students across the state. They have information here about how many students are chronically absent, and then they tell us that it's 21.5% for this particular school year. And then most of the information on STATA's website is also broken down based on race, ethnicity, English language learners, a couple of important subgroups, right? Students with disabilities and economically disadvantaged. Frequently, they will also show you by gender. I just want to let you know that gender is not a subgroup that they calculate your effectiveness and student performances by gender. They just give that to you as an FYI. Important on the screen for any individual school that caused this message to be on the statewide screen, this chart would be blank, and then the following sentence here at the bottom would appear. Attendance data were not reported for 1 or more schools within, or for this, LEA, DEDS code, local educational agency, or whatnot. Caution should be used when interpreting results. The other place on the school report card where you will see attendance data is under the student and educator report section, and it shows a simple attendance rate and the suspension rate. Again, these are statewide results. New this current school year just published in the I don't know, like probably end of the winter in 2023, the state added instructional modalities. So while many students were in schools were still remote, coming out of COVID in the fall of 2020, the state is reporting that 61% of the schools had remote instruction, 38% were in person, and then 1% in both. Got both remote and in person on the same day is actually what both means. So again, how will this data be used? Not only for New York State Education Department regulations, but for their responsibility to meet accountability calculations for the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, the public reporting of chronic absenteeism, and the, actually I should probably say attendance rate. Of course, all that information is rolled up to the U.S. Department of Education for all of their regulations, and it's also used by the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, OTDA, for pandemic benefits. So this is the fourth and expected to be the final year of PEBT benefits for families with students who are receiving free or reduced price lunches. For the 23-22 school year and what we expect for the 2022 school year, it'll end based on the ending of this identification by the state or feds. I'm not sure which it'll be, probably the feds. And it's based on students having consecutive absences. Actually, I think I have a separate screen here. We know that this is what's going to be based on. The state doesn't know reasons when students are absent. They don't have verification of COVID positive tests. So the assumption is that if a student is being excused from being absent because they have COVID, then families with free and reduced price lunch students will receive some PEBT benefits. Now, this isn't perfect. You want to make sure that you're considering what your school policy is. I have been on the phone with schools who say that no absence is excused. And I know that they brought that conversation back to senior leadership to decide what to do last year when they realized that they might not be helping the state to identify which families need PEBT benefits if they didn't report excused absences. So your local policy is going to dictate that. If you say there's no excused absences and that's what you report, just be aware that students might miss out on some benefits in their families. Reporting student daily attendance requires 3 different templates. We need to know your day calendar. The state needs to know which days you have instruction, so they know how to calculate a percentage of attendance rates and whatnot. We need to know your codes for attendance. The state has 8 preset codes. You're allowed to have as many as you want, as long as you map any custom code to their preset code. Like you can have an in-school suspension code that specifies whether or not it was a fight or alcohol or something else. And but it has to have a state code of ISS. Did I say in school or out of school? Anyway, you're going to map whatever you want for a local code to a state code. And then there are the actual records. Here's a view of our website. Lots of information here. There's the address, of course, information, current webinars and whatnot will always be at the top of the list. And at the top here, we also have our hours. We expect to be open later in the evening, maybe in the beginning of May, end of June, and the first couple weeks of July. Currently, all data so far this year has always been processed live. When you do your L1 data prep, the data instantly moves from level 0 to level 1 of our data warehouse. As the school year comes to the end, right now we only have 5 million records in the data warehouse in April of 2023. By the end, and it's going up quite a bit. Last year we had 26 million records at the end of the year. So if someone's loading a large file, it's possible that it's going to cause slowdowns in level 0. When that happens, we put this on batch reporting, which means that your import will happen but the data won't move instantly. I think it's every half hour we process the data. It allows us to like put things in a queue, like a deli line, deal with a bunch, and then take a new batch and deal with them. We do that as little as possible because live usually works perfectly, but we'll make sure you're up and running. It's better to be able to load the data and have it sit in a batch that you have to come back and check it than to have to keep logging in to see if it's working. Why we do everything, mostly how we do it and what the rules are around it, are all dictated by the state education department's Student Information Repository System Manual, SIRS. So every time you hear us refer to SIRS, this is what we're talking about. Please call us with any questions if you're working on something and even 10-15 minutes has passed and you don't know what to do next, just call us. We want to keep you up and running. We know this is tedious and can be difficult and frustrating. If you ask us a question and want to know why, very likely we're going to send you an excerpt from this magazine, or not a magazine, it's a PDF. I never print it anymore. And give you the reference of the page and probably a link to the document also.